else's oppression, right? Being able to empathize, being able to sympathize, and being able to fight for that person as though their struggle that may be unique to their identity is your own fight. So when we talk about, indigenous folks, when we talk about Black Lives Matter, there are definitely people that are working in correspondence with each other. The same way that Asian for Black Lives turns up for Black Lives Matter, if there, is something that we can get together on, we definitely want to make sure that we're doing that. I will say that, I've seen it done very beautifully. Like we had a direct action in the Castro a couple of months ago, and before we held the ceremony for the Black lives that were lost at the hands of police, there were actually some indigenous folks that came in and did a ceremony for the land to remind us, right? There were people that came in and did a ceremony to honor the dead in the way that indigenous folks do, since we are on indigenous land. And I know for some that may seem like a small step, right? But it's important to make sure that we are working together on all fronts. So we're not just going out and addressing your issue when we're going into political spaces, or when we're going into strategy sessions, or we're going into boardrooms, or whatever outside or inside spaces we're walking into. We're not just bringing you with us, but we're actually bringing people with us. Does that make sense? And then the last thing I'll say on that is, once again, just to re-stress the importance of network building, that also transforms over to coalition building, right? Like, we have to make sure that everyone who's doing Black Lives Matter work, we know isn't under the Black Lives Matter banner, right? We know that there are people out there that are pushing for Black lives that aren't BLM. We know that there are people out there pushing for indigenous rights that aren't necessarily under that indigenous banner, or doing that work maybe in a system or in a nonprofit that actually, doesn't address their issues solely. So, building with those people, making sure that we're coalition building, and making sure that we're allowing people to be the experts of their own experiences. I can't tell an indigenous person what it's like to have to go through the work of decolonization from their experience, right? But what I can do is build with them on that level and make sure that I understand their framework and that they understand mine. And I think when we do that, we build, that strong network, we build a stronger movement.
And I would add to that too. I think this is something I feel like I've seen movements do much better at in the past decade or so. Actually being able to say we are on land that has a history. Here's the people of that land, here's the current situation. They're not disappeared, they're not absent, they're not gone, they're still here. And that's been a major reframe. I was definitely raised, I think as a lot of us are, it's there's no Native American people left. That's something that happened back a long time ago in 1497, but now it's just here. So sad it happened, or whatever. It's been really radicalizing to meet indigenous people who are fighting for sovereignty of their land here, for decolonization here, and see that that's happening around the world, and begin to learn and reorient around our relationship to land. The other thing I think has been powerful is not just the honoring. So I think there's one step, it's honoring, let's invite them to come and open the meeting, right? Which is, I've been to a lot of meetings now, it's we have to have the local indigenous community open the meeting. And I think the next level of that is re-indigenization, right? That each of us actually has our own indigenous story. And I had a woman here in Oakland sit down with me because I was what does someone like me do? I'm multiracial, we don't know anything beyond my father's, my father is the end of the line for knowing about our lineage. I did the Ancestry.com thing, I don't know, and what do I do, right? And she was this is your indigenous story. It's not an accident that you don't know your history. That was on purpose. That was to disempower you and your people and your lineage. And so you have to start to reclaim that, but also you have to re-indigenize. You have to learn from people like me who are from this place how to be in relationship to this place. It's no good if there's always this line between those who are indigenous and those who are not, and that those who are indigenous are the only ones who are holding the right relationship to the land. You have to learn the right relationship to the land. And it was a really beautiful reframe of my work. And now I live in Detroit. I've been there 6 years. And it's been that same thing of how do I get in right relationship to this place of Detroit so that I have a right to be here, and that I am a good steward for this place, and that is part of our human condition, our human responsibility, wherever we are, to become in right relationship to the land, and the best people to tell us that are those who are indigenous to that place. So I think that's the thing. It's not just saying come open the meeting, but come tell us how to be here and give us a blessing on the work that we're doing, work with us, work side by side. That's I think the right direction that we're starting to move in.
I'm from the International Jewish Anti-Zionist Network,
Yes.
and we are absolutely dedicated to get Zionism out of the Middle East and out of the world.
Yes.
And for that, and for the indigenous people, the Palestinians from that area, to reclaim their land. I want to say that starting with Zionist attack on Palestinians, the United States has been trampling all over the Middle East against the indigenous people. You know, they went into Afghanistan to save the women. They bombed the hell out of them. That's how they saved them. And I really feel, you know, we come from England. I'm American by birth, Brooklyn. But
I was like, you don't sound English.
I lived in the UK and have for many years, and I've lived also in the West Indies. My partner here is from Argentina. Margaret Prescott is from Barbados. You know, we have an international experience, and we experience the United States in a more truthful way, perhaps, than is always true here. And I think it's really important that the movement against racism is not limited to the United States. American racism is everywhere, and we have to defeat it everywhere. And it's so important to us where we are and in other places in the world that we hear from the people who are the enemies of racism and are the victims and protagonists against racism, for them to identify also with those who are the victims and the protagonists of racism in other parts of the world imposed by the United States and its military. And finally, I want to say, you know, I know that the Zionists trained the police in St. Louis. They train the police everywhere. They're expert murderers and policemen. The first and most important industry of Israel is repression.
Yes.
That is a financial fact. And we have to see how the American military and the Israeli military are one entity and are moving together. And we have to move ourselves together against them whenever we can. Oh, right. I'm sorry. I have bad news that I must announce. We just got news that Mumia Abu Jamal's wife is saying that his condition is deteriorating, and that we must mobilize to get what they have been demanding, which is independent doctors and experts to see him, to save his life. They have not been able to execute him because the movement has not allowed it. And they're trying to execute him to call it illness, but it's not illness, it's murder. And we can't allow it. Do we have the numbers? Are the numbers here?
I have
Yeah, if you go to-
here.
Also, if you go to freemumia.com, they have all the updated information on who to call, where to
Right.
call.
Well,
Yeah.
this, you know,
freemumia.com.
Say it on loud.
freemumia.com, but also there are some telephone numbers.
Yeah, I have them here if people want to
That
get them.
Phoebe will have. We've worked with Mumia for many years. He's a
in
dear
here.
friend.
He's in here. He wrote an essay on Star Wars and imperialism. Yeah, he's awesome.
He's written brilliantly on
He's
so many
incredible.
things.
Yes.
Anyway, I think that we should all act on it
Yes,
and
that's great.
bring it to everybody's attention who's here today. And their networks. We have
I'm
to
looking it
stop
up.
his murder, his execution.
Yeah, I'm seeing if I can find the numbers too.
I have some right now. People want the numbers?
Somebody can read them?
Okay.
Let me see. Is this one right here? All right. These are different names as well. So one is John Corestes, who's the superintendent, SCI at Mahoney. And that phone number is 570-773-2158. extension 8102. The second phone number is Tom Wolf, who is Pennsylvania governor, and that number is 717-787-2500. The third number, John Wetzel, Pennsylvania doctor. That number is 717-728-4109. And then finally, Susan McNaughton, MCNAUGHTON, press secretary, the DOC. That's 717-728-4025.
Thank you.
Okay, there's quick, there's